Welcome back to part 2 of setting up your Microsoft Sentinel Workspace for the SC200 exam guide. Without any further ado, let's get back to Ben.
Here we are. We've got a free trial activated. Peter, you'll be glad to know that we're going to save some credits for the next 30 days.
Phew.
So we're not going to pay any ingest. Thank you later. So we'll just take okay to that. Like I say, we'll expand all these menu items here. As you can see, we've got quite a few in the little hamburger menu on the side. So yeah, let's run through it. You'll always kind of land on using guides. So the Microsoft are super helpful in making sure that you've got access to information quite freely within Sentinel. So we've got news and guides, we've got community, we've got the content hub, we've got the MITRE attack framework, super useful. I'll definitely, it says in preview, but it's a brilliant tool. And that's about it, really. We've got the overview page. At the moment, we've got nothing in here. Like I say, it's very basic. Well, we've got one rule enabled. That must be by default. Go to analytics. Let's see what that is. Advanced multi-stage attack. Okay, brilliant. Fusion rule. So, anyways, default landing page logs. So this will be very similar to the log analytics workspace interface where you can write some KQL. So we've got no tables in here at the moment. What will happen once we start adding connectors, pulling resources in, you'll start seeing tables to be tables populating. But at the moment we can't query anything. There's nothing in here to query.
Gotcha.
Incidents. I mean, this is like a Ron Seal moment. What it does, whatever it says on the tin, it does. So this is where all the incidents. So incidents are spawned from analytical rules. And analytical rules you can create or pull from the content hub, which is the repository where the connectors are. And typically, when you join a connector, and you'll see shortly when we get to that piece, you will get a bunch of rules that come with it. So you don't get nothing. You get more than just a connector, basically, is the point I was trying to make there.
Yeah.
We'll probably come back to this in maybe a later video or something, Peter, where we'll generate something on purpose to try and see, so we can see what goes on.
Yep. Sounds good.
Workbooks. For those familiar with Azure, once again, Azure Monitor, Log Analytics Workspace, you can create workbooks, dashboards, do all that kind of good stuff off here. Hunting. This is where you take a more proactive approach with the data set you've got. So let's say that there's a particular IOC, so indicator of compromise. Say it's an IP address that's been targeted for Blizzard or Snow Blizzard or Tempest. Insert threat group of choice. You can, across all your data sets, you can then go look and hunt for that IP address or that file hash or URL, DNS lookup, whatever you want to go and look for proactively before it bites you. It might be that something's somewhat silent in your network or across your data set. It's just been announced that they're actively targeting it. This is where you'd come to try and query that data set to actively find that threat before it becomes active. Or it might be in very early stages of them, having a look around, creating that reconnaissance, that profile of what's where and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So definitely super useful tab. And this is more for, not necessarily the defenders will use it, but for the more, like I say, the proactive, the outward people who want to go and look for things. Notebooks. So this is a combination. We can build some very clever stuff in here. I don't think notebooks are in scope for the SC200. I think you just have to understand what you can do with them. But yeah, ultimately based on Jupyter, and you can build out some really big data analytics. And churn some really interesting things. I can't say that I'm a super duper professional at Jupyter notebooks. I've seen what they can do and they are very powerful. But yeah, really useful. Entity behavior. So we've not enabled UEBA, user entity behavior and analytics. It requires some machine learning, and there is a cost to that. So for the time being, we'll leave that off. But you probably will need to know what that is. And look, it takes, and they announced actually some extra feeds recently that go into that to start building up that analytical behavior. And the entity of the point of this is that from an entity perspective, if you've got a user that logs in from the same IP address every day and for the last 30, 60, 90 days with this enabled, it builds that picture. So the second that they log in from somewhere else, there's already a risk associated to that anyway, probably from an Entra perspective. But then in here, it'll start going, well, that's not normal. You know, this person for the last 100 days or whatever has logged in from this one IP address. It might be head office, it might be a home address. And yeah, you can start using machine learning here at this point to start picking out the anomalies, because that would be an anomaly, in my opinion, for someone who's been so static in coming from where they, logging in from the same IP address. Simple example. Yeah. But then for them to log in, maybe, they log in the UK, or they log into the States, they log into Ireland or France, wherever regularly, and then for them to log into Taiwan or Africa or Russia, or it might even just be another country. It all adds in to, could it be in a compromised account? I mean, I'm picking particularly easier examples because I'm thinking on my feet here. But for sure, this is super useful, the machine learning element. There is a cost to it though. You have to pay for the compute behind the scenes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Threat intel, brilliant. Absolutely what you need. There are multiple feeds out there that are free, but threat intelligence just gives you that depth that you need. Because look, you could know your user base inside and out, but you still need a bit of intelligence to apply some of those rules, them indicators of compromise or file hashes, whatever it needs to be. And like I say, you can pay for feeds. There's Microsoft threat intelligence feed that you can pay for. And yeah, for sure, I'm not saying you need it. Could you do without it? Yeah, for sure you could. Does it help? Of course it does. Like anything, it will help. The bit that I want to come to, this is a brilliant tool. I hope it says preview, and I genuinely hope they maintain it and make it GA, because it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So for those people who are aware of what the MITRE attack framework is, this is a direct mapping of the rules enabled. So if you've got 100 rules in your environment, they might only deal with every single reconnaissance technique possible. So for people watching this, taking the SC200 and they've already got Sentinel, come in here if you've not clicked this wonderful tab, and it kind of, like I say, we can see 5 for brute force, we can see 1 for data encoding, but we can see that we've got no rules whatsoever that are tagged directly to reconnaissance. So as part of our scene platform, our security team, someone might ask them, oh, what techniques are you monitoring for under execution? And you can say, well, actually, out of the 14 techniques in here, we're really only monitoring for one thing. Now, this is beautiful, because there's multiple ways that you can spin this. It might be a use case where you can go and receive more budget to say, I want to go and bring somebody in who can write me a load of rules. It might be a use case where you can go and say, look, I need to come off business as usual, and this is a bit of a internal development task that we need to develop some rules that cover across this. It's also a brilliant pre-sales tool if we're coming in from that element and going, right, what techniques are you covering for? And like, people are, I don't know. And this is a tool where we can say, look, from Sentinel perspective, we can cover all these things. We can prioritize prioritize our gaps, basically. Like I say, it's super useful tool. And I've named 3 use cases there right off the bat. There's probably even more that like I'm not even touching, but super useful tool, because very quickly, it gives you a visual overlay of where my gaps are. Where am I super strong in as well? Because we can see like brute force here. We've got like five rules connected to that, or directly tagging that technique, the techniques within that. So for sure, like this is almost like your gap analysis that leads onto a risk analysis that then paints that picture to the business. Like, there you go. There's another use case that I would just give you. Like, it's such a powerful tool, such a powerful tool. Like, it's buzzing. Like, I know, I'm certainly aware of customers that we're aware of, Peter, that use this, and they like kind of pick a box and they go, right, we're going to focus on that box now. And before you know it, it'll be quite dense and covered. It'll take time. I mean, I suppose this is the trade-off, is that if you're stuck in here writing rules for the coverage, who's watching the actual alerts? So there is a trade-off, but at least this gives you a quick, easy breakdown of where you're covered so far. It's brilliant. I love it. I could spend hours talking about this, but we haven't hours, so let's crack on.
Okay.
SOC optimization. So I think this was a feature that was introduced last year, and what happens is, or what happened in the past, should I say, before this, is that Sentinel would go in, log sources had come in, and unless you was potentially, you know, I'm not even saying that this happened in this use case, but if you had an MSSP who was monitoring this for you or doing this, I would expect a level of optimization that they'd make sure that all the log sources were being used. You know, are we keeping that data for too long? Do we need to trim it? Ultimately, this, whilst I'm picking cost optimizations here, because that's a massive part of Azure as well, there's a whole cost optimization piece. Look, it could be that we're missing some data. We might have onboarded very early. The connector might have only covered certain data sources, and now there's been some updates, and either Microsoft or the product vendor has made more sources available to correlate and get that deeper picture. So it will try and suggest it will only do Microsoft-based ones, as far as I'm aware. But look, it's there for you to optimize. Super useful tool. After, I mean, I'm going to say super useful quite frequently actually here throughout this Sentinel piece. But yeah, it's certainly a passion of mine. So yeah, optimization is brilliant, because if let's say you're keeping firewall logs for like 90 days, well within the initial 90 days retention piece that you get anyway, included in the ingestion price. If you're not using them, you're paying, and you're keeping them longer than 90 days, you're paying straight up. You're just paying for those logs to be stored. Look, you might want to turn that table retention down to, like, I don't know, a week, or extend it. And like I say, the whole optimization piece, it just depends on usage and use cases and what visibility you need and what you need to correlate. Like I say, we've not got anything here, so it's not. And even if we did a video in a couple of weeks' time after we let it ingest, there may be some optimizations, but it needs to run for at least 3 months. It needs to have constant use and maintenance of watering, because that's how you get the usage stats out. That's how it's able then to make its recommendations. Content Hub, referenced it a few times, but this is the daddy. This is where we can get pre-canned connectors, but also rules as well. So, because we're probably going to connect it to Microsoft 365, I'm sure we can we'll just do 365 and save my spelling and see what comes up. So we've got MailGuard. We're not interested in that. So we've got Microsoft 365. We can see all these all the rules. Some of these are. But if we were to click on the actual top level item, if we don't have it maximized, we can see this is a solution. And in here we get 1 data connector, we get 21 hunting queries, we get 3 workbooks and 15 analytical rules. And look, pricing free. We can view further details into that, and it tells us what it does. Plans, they're just one. Usage information, like I say, it just pulls out some publisher IDs and whatnot. like I say, this is a rule that we can look at later, and I suppose whilst we're at it, we'll install it. It's one click of a button.
Yeah.
And we're aware. So
amazing.
Yeah, literally a lot of the out of the box stuff. Like I say, in 30 seconds, we've got rules now that we can look across Microsoft 365. So, I mean, I think I did a video for a webinar. It was like SOC in an hour. You could really do it quicker than an hour.
Yeah.
You can and this is why I love this solution, is that if you're at the right level of Microsoft 365 licensing, and even if you're not at the right level, because let's be honest, E5 is the daddy where you get everything. Even if you're not at that, there's certain sources that are always free. And if I can find the URL in this meantime, we'll link it in the chat or whatever, or we'll link it in the description, because do you know what? Even if you just do this for sign-in logs and mail activity, if you've got auditing enabled across all your Exchange mailboxes, super useful. You can do that whole, you can detect for rules being added, for the mass spam being sent out, and obviously there are other protections, but like you can do some really simple stuff, and actually it doesn't break the bank in terms of licensing or what Sentinel would cost you if done properly. So yeah, absolutely awesome feature. And look, if you wanted it as just a set and forget and just for it to alert you, it can be that as well. It can just be that extended monitoring that you really wanted, but it's not its true purpose. I've got to stress that it's not its true purpose. Because it definitely is much more than that. And look, we've got Defender for Office 365 as well, and I think we'll be able to turn on a few more of these. We've got the XDR connector, which is the combination of a few sources, and like I say, plenty of things. And look, just to address the comment of what if there's not a connector, don't worry about that. We'll cover it. There's another way. There's a will, there's a way, and certainly, yeah, there's so I think
cool.
Cisco Umbrella, I think it springs to mind. So yeah, we've got a data connector, but with that data connector, we need to pump a few more details into that. It's not just going to be a straightforward connector that we'll show later on. So like I say, if it's not listed in here, there's still ways and means of getting it into Sentinel, whether that's via syslog, or we can leverage some automation. You can even write directly to the log analytics work tables. So you'll have to create a custom table, and you can write information straight to the table and then use KQL to obviously, I think you will need to normalize it. You'll need to understand that data source to do that. But still, if you're good at plugging things in together via APIs, yeah, we can put anything in here and get it in one way, shape, or form.
Good.
Repositories. For all our GitHub or Azure DevOps people out there, you can push code, basically. Push rules. Rules is usually the common one that you can basically connect to a repository, have all your rules in a central Git controlled repo, and then you can just push them. Super useful. Super useful if you're let's just say an MSP or MSSP, and you want to develop all your rules centrally, but you want to have multiple people connecting to those multiple workspaces, not people, multiple workspaces connecting to that central point of truth. And when you get an update, you push an update, it goes out to all the repositories. This is where you need to be. Makes that management piece easier. There's other ways and means though that you could do that. And it depends on how you set up and how you want to manage things. Obviously, there's always pros and cons to everything. Community, it's just a collection of resources. Like I say, it's not some blogs in here. There's some. It follows the MSRC page where Microsoft announced things security related. Like I say, it's just a collection of information.
And there you have it, folks. More Sentinel goodness there. We have one more video, third and final part to come in this particular series, so watch out for that coming soon. In the meantime, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and we will see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.